So, first of all, hello, welcome to all of you here in Amsterdam to this workshop, to the Netherlands. Some of you have come from far. We have people from Japan, Australia, New Zealand, US, but of course most of us come from Europe, a little bit closer from here. And most of us are also librarians, actually, which is not really surprising, because we invited most of you to attend our OCLC Research Library partnership meeting, which is going to happen tomorrow and day after tomorrow. But this event, this workshop, is co-organized by DANS and OCLC Research, and Andrea Scharnhorst is my mate in this adventure. And so we welcome you today, and we hope that we will have nice discussions. And I'd like to start by asking Andrea if you could just recollect a few things from the previous workshop, because that is the inspiration of this workshop. DANS organized a workshop in January of this year, and there were a lot of people from the constituency of data archives. There were also quite a few librarians. And I think that this time it's the other way around. So the discussions of today will probably be a bit different from the previous time. It was also much more a Dutch audience, and this is much more international. So it will be interesting to see the differences. But I think to start off, it would be nice to setting the scene to give a little bit of an idea of how the workshop last time was.
Now, DANS stands for Data Archiving and Network Services, and is actually an institute of the Royal Academy for Arts and Sciences in the Netherlands, together with the the biggest funding organization in the Netherlands. But we are a rather small institution. Yeah, so we hold data sets in the social sciences and humanities primarily, archaeology. We have big collections, and compared with the Royal Library, where Barbara is sitting over there, we are rather a small kind of kit. And still we would like to think about our future, where we should go as an archive which holds digital research data. Yeah? So should we collect everything? Should we go to CERN and say we are your back office? Are we actually able to do that? Probably not. So what is it an archivist actually adds to archiving digital research data? So that was the reason our director, Peter Dorn, started to invite internationally scholars or information professionals in the field, among them Herbert van der Sompel. We have now a whole kind of series. So we had Andrew Traylor visiting us. We had Kati Berner from Bloomington, from which I also have brought those nice posters. And we will have Christine Borgmann, I think some of the audience might know. So, so we invited them to actually think with us about what could the future of the archive be. And what I personally found most interesting is that Herbert and Andrew came up with a differentiation between the recording and the archiving, which I think will play a role in Herbert's talk again, because what I see, being a relative newcomer in that field, is that a lot of experimentation is going on. But the practitioners, which you might also know, so the people who really get the data sets in and need to index them, for them that's sometimes too much. So what is the guidelines we can give them? What is the kind of rope we can give them to actually do good practices and not getting lost in every of the experimentation which is possible? Yeah, we thought we would like to have a brainstorm session in the afternoon, so we warm you up a bit. That's why you see me jumping around in front with these red dots, yeah. And we also thought, okay, we do something, because we are so outgoing, both of us, we do an interview introduction to that. So, so after that January workshop, you came actually to me and you asked, could we do a follow-up workshop? And we tried to sync up a sequence. But what was your motivation to come to us and do this?
Well, you know, first of all, I attended that workshop and I was really thrilled because of the really good quality of the discussions, the inspiration that came from the keynote speakers, and the engaged conversations by everyone. Everyone was really engaged in that discussion, and I love to see data archivists and librarians work together, and I thought we need to continue that conversation. It cannot be just a one-time exercise and then we all go home and we forget about it. I think we need to continue that conversation. It's very important. So this was a nice opportunity to do so, and you were enthusiastic as well, so that's why we organized this. And also for me, it is an opportunity to maybe also work a bit more closely with DANS and data archives in general in the Netherlands, in Europe, because I think that's very important. So not only organizing such events, but maybe also at a research level, that we can do some research together on identities of researchers, name disambiguation, which we have been talking about, visualization of data and stuff like that. So I really look forward to that. And now my question to you is that we have these different stakeholders now. We named the data archivists, we named the librarians, but the research, of course, is also very important in this whole setting. And I know you from the VKS, the Virtual Knowledge Studio, where you were a researcher. And now you work for an organization that is supporting research. So what does that mean for you, that shift in perspective, now that you are no longer in your role of a researcher, but a supporter of research?
I try to keep my role as a researcher, although it's not so easy. So I have a background in physics first and philosophy of science second. And bibliometrics is probably the field in the information sciences you are familiar with, where I have quite some stake into that. And a person like Christine Borgman, who is both in the digital library community active, as also in ACIST, and has written books on the changes in digital scholarship, that's a near colleague to myself. So that's how to place myself. But for an archive and a library, I'm an absolute newbie. Yeah, so I'm still learning. We did a project on the changes of the classification in Wikipedia, compared that to the changes of the universal decimal classification. I got infected by Paul Audley's kind of work, so I'm quite a bit obsessed with that. But I'm still a newbie. So what I find very, very challenging is actually to keep your feet in the ground. I have always done very theoretical research, complex mathematical models of complex social processes, innovation studies, evolutionary economics, network theories. So what you need for an archive is sometimes much more simpler, but also much more challenging, because you need to sort out first what the real problem is to answer. And I quite like that, yeah? And I'm also in a second affiliation, I'm coordinating digital humanities projects, and that's a very nice kind of combination, being in an information service environment and working in digital humaniora. So I need to, yeah, of course. When we worked at the Virtual Knowledge Studio, we were actually hosted by one of the, I think, most interesting institutions the Netherlands have, the International Institute for Social History. And Titia came there and, kind of organized everything, and I think brought the first very big digitization project to them, European project. So what did you brought then from the ESH to OCLC?
So I learned a lot at the IISG, that's the International Institute for Social History, where I was director of collections. And I learned a lot from the researchers there, all social historians. And they were actually already collecting a lot of data. They have a huge database with population data about the Dutch population, which they've been typing in from the archives from paper into their laptops, and they've accumulated a lot of data. And in general, the way that those researchers were collecting data was really very interesting and intriguing, and especially the maintenance aspect of data collection and data curation was very interesting, because we thought from a library perspective, we were a library, an archive, and a museum on social movements. And we saw that the researchers were very good at collecting the data and putting them in the database, but then, you know, it would stay on that PC, it would stay on these very old legacy type of platforms, And from an ICT and a library perspective, we would always push them and say, you know, you need to upgrade your material, you need to modernize your platforms, and otherwise the data is not going to be available anymore for a long time. So those are the things which I learned, and I'm very happy now to be at OCLC Research, because I can do that beyond the boundaries of a single institution, and I'm really happy that we are here today to talk and to cross boundaries of institutions and specialities. So one of the last questions, because we have to round up, is that we are organizing this workshop, and so I would like to ask you, what is your objective with this workshop? And what are your expectations? What would you like to see as outcomes of this specific workshop?
Now, we have run comparative workshops. I think it's now it's now probably the third or the fourth I attended in a row. There was a conference in Amsterdam, very nicely, Beyond the PDF. Paul Groth organized that. And I enjoyed that very much. We did the workshop, now we have that. I'm in particular curious about your thoughts. Yeah? So every of the group we are engaging brings something new. So I'm really, really eager to hear in the afternoon in particular, and also maybe in the discussion, what is your take on that? Yeah? So I'm also particular kind of, that sounds also weird, kind of, but I'm also eager what the librarians think about it, yeah? So the librarians as the curators, as the kind of the gatekeepers, if you want, and also the ward of the scientific knowledge, of the knowledge of the world. So what do you think is the next step to not get drowned in digital information, but to actually get grip on that? And help us all to do our lifelong learning, as we are supposed to do. So I'm very, very eager to hear about that.
Okay, so let's get started then.
Okay.
Right?